Hay on Omud 18 of the printed Sefer, and this year is taking place on Sunday afternoon, Yud Aleph Tammuz Tov Shin Ayin Beis. Yud Aleph Tammuz Tov Shin Ayin Beis. Right, so we saw the great union that occurs between the Seichel and the Muskal, that occurs between the power of reasoning of the person and the idea which is grasped by that power of reasoning in the nefesh of the Odom, of the Mensch, and the learner, when he's learning Divrei Torah Davke. And as we pointed out in a previous class, that this union of Makif and Mukaf, we saw it was from two aspects of union, that the mind grasps the concept and surrounds and takes within itself the concept that it's working at, and at the same time there's a makif and an all-enveloping light in the concept that he's learning, that also involves his seichel and envelops and contains its seichel within its makif, within its enveloping power. So we saw that it's like two contrasting movements or nuances which unite together in one in, and each one surrounds and envelops in the fullest possible way of envelopment. Of course, in Ruchnias, there's no limitations, and no, as it were, holdbacks or disturbances in the perfection of the union. So that's the highest possible union that we could picture, completely beyond anything, as the Alter Rebbe says, that we can know about or experience in the physical world. And that occurs dafke when one is learning Torah. And we saw that that's precisely the unequivocal greatness and the unequivocal greatness of the mitzvah of the Yediyas HaTorah, of knowing Torah through study of Torah. And we drew a difference between two aspects of the study of Torah in the mitzvah of Torah. We pointed out they were like two different forms or two different mitzvahs themselves within the study of Torah. One was the study of Torah through speech, just to say and to repeat over the matters of Torah, like somebody saying Tehillim or somebody going back over something that he already learned, well understood, just to remind himself of it, and just taking the chapter headings and the oisias of the thing that he learned to remind himself. And we saw that comes out be'ika in speech. Those inyanim express themselves in speech. Therefore, there's an inyan to repeat over what you learned already, although it may not be, with all the profundity of the understanding involved therein, and so on. And we saw that was called mitzvahs Talmud Torah shebedibur. The Alter Rebbe referred to that as the mitzvah of Talmud Torah in speech, which indicates that there's maybe other mitzvahs in Talmud Torah, but that itself is a mitzvah in its own right, the mitzvah of Talmud Torah in speech. And speech is a very high and spiritual levush of the nefesh, higher than the realm of deed, of Maisa. Yet nonetheless we said that can't be compared, Klal, to the study of Torah in order to know and unite your mind with the concepts of Torah in order to know them and possess them in your seichel, which we call mitzvahs Yediyas HaTorah, the study of the Torah in order to know and appreciate Torah. Well, that has this unbelievable summing up and reaching the ultimate greatness of the mind being involved in a double form of yichud at the same, where the two aspects of yichud occur together in the same matter, in the same inyan, which that's impossible. In Gashmi, as we pointed out, Well, that union occurs precisely in the mitzvah of Yedias HaTorah. And we pointed out at the end of the last year that is applicable in study of Torah. That not to be confused that maybe when you study anything there's a form of yichud or that sort occurs with the matter that you're learning. So we based ourselves on a quote from a famous passage from the Rebbe, where the Rebbe pointed out that the Rebbe Shlita, where the Rebbe points out that that form of yichud with the muskal and the maskil, well, they are only applicable to. Thanks very much. They're only applicable to the inyanim of Torah, being as it is, the Torah is united, and its whole inyan is elikus, and therefore it's able to. It's inyan, it's one thing with the Eibishter, and therefore it has this ability to involve the nefesh in that yichud, or for something which is not directly a revelation of Hashem's will, even though it be albeit a spiritual entity. You know about that, but you don't reach the consummate unity that we're talking about here. And so that's where we're holding, and we reached that consummate concept of the greatness of the union of the learner and the learning aspect, or what we might call the concept, the learner and the concept that he learned. And that's where we're holding now on Omen 18, about 2/3 of the way down. And we pointed out that that's the greatness of the limud HaTorah, particularly Yedias HaTorah, as compared to all the other mitzvahs, which can occur either in dibur or in deed. Despite the fact that over there's also tremendous involvement of Hashem's enveloping light, the makif, that there is in the mitzvahs, what they are malbishes hanefesh umakifo oyer Hashem mireisha v'ad raglo. That when you do a mitzvah, then for sure the mitzvah carries with it this all-enveloping makif, transcendent light of the mitzvah, as we pointed out earlier in Perital, that surrounds and involves the nefesh mireisha v'ad raglo in a complete way. You're completely surrounded and involved in the makif of the mitzvah. However, he says it's not to be compared to this type of union that occurs, and that's what he says will be Yedias HaTorah. However, when it comes to this mitzvah of the knowing of Torah, milvad sha'aseichel malubish b'chochmas Hashem. He said, apart from the fact that it's similar to mitzvahs, then your seichel is enclosed in the Chokhmah of Hashem. And as we pointed out, that when you begin to study something particularly, then the makif in that inyan, and as we might call it here, the divinity in that matter, is bigger than and beyond and over your seichel. And so you are to a certain extent enclosed in that, similar to the makif of the mitzvahs, how they enclose the whole nefesh. Your seichel is malubish b'chokhmas Hashem. However, the greatness here is that Hine Gam Chokhmas Hashem, even the Chokhmah and the wisdom of Hashem, Bekir Boy, is inside him. In other words, his seichel also involves and carries within it also the particular matter of Torah which he's learning at that moment. So we can say that Gam Chokhmas Hashem Bekir Boy, Masha Seichel Masig. What his seichel, meaning his power of reasoning, is able to grasp and to form a grip and to involve completely, to envelop in his power of reasoning, Masha Efshaloi Litvois Ulahasig Miyadias Hashem Miyadias HaTorah Ish Kafi Sikloi. It doesn't matter what your particular level may be, then ish kafi sikloi, each person according to his ability to grasp. It doesn't matter when he does a grasp according to his ability, then he forms that yichud. And then he said, because that is already not dependent so much on the actual yichud and the actual ability of the mind to form that yichud, ish kafi sichloi v'koyach yediosoi v'hasagosoi b'pardeis, b'pshat, remez, drush, sod, in all the four different aspects of the Torah, then it all depends on the power which has been given to him by Hashem, and his ability to grasp and to form knowledge in the study of Torah. Well, that's already something a little bit beyond his determination. That's given to him, and he has a certain power of yediyah in Torah, so it can be very different to another person's power of yediyah. But the union and the actual grasp of their particular seichel, according to its capacity, makes with the union in Torah, which they are studying, it's equal, and there's no interdivisions or no differences that we can draw in the actual union and the makif or mukaf, the surrounding and being surrounded at the same moment in the study of Torah. And here the Alter Rebbe stresses that it doesn't matter on what level in Torah you're learning, whether it be pshat, whether it be remez, whether it be drush, or whether it be soy. And that's the very interesting diuk that we suggest here, that the Alter Rebbe could have just said, ish kafi sikloi v'koyach yediosei. Why does he have to say hasagosei b'pardeis, stressing to us the all four levels of the Torah? Because here you might have said that the higher you go up, in drush and in sod, particularly in Geras HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe points out to us over there that when it comes to sod, we only appreciate the existence of these matters. We can't really appreciate them on the level that they are in the Elam Salyanim and the Elam Ruchnim, and particularly the Esas Fires and other great spiritual emanations of Hashem. We can't really grasp. So over there it's just a Yediyah Samatziyah. So that's what he points out, that the highest Yediyah you can have is a Yediyah Samatziyah. Nonetheless, what the Alter Rebbe is pointing out is that even though that's only Yediyah Samatziyah, legabi, what the Elikus in those matters really is, or your union as a seichel with whatever you've been given to grasp it, on whatever level it may be, the union of the seichel is there. Being as that is Torah, and Torah is one with Hashem. And as it were, all aspects of the world, and your seichel, all came originally from Torah. And therefore the union that occurs in your study of Torah doesn't differ given to whatever level that may be. I might have thought that in Pshat I can have a deeper union of Makiv and Mukaf, because that's in my field, that's in my boundary or my ball game, to use the expression. And when I get further up, then maybe the whole union lessens due to the profundity and the, as it were, the leaving behind of what I leave behind. There's so much I'm not able to really grasp. Nonetheless, on the level you do grasp, then the union is absolute. And the union is so high that it's incomparable to any other union. And it's, you notice that the Alter Rebbe, he mentions just in one or two words the makiv of the matter of Torah compared to you. And he just says of it, Mashe Chokmas Hashem Makiva. But when it comes to how your mind envelops the whole Indian, how it is in Torah, he's marich a whole series of expressions. He says that Gam Chokmas Hashem Bekir Boy, Mashe Aseichel Masig V'Teivus or Makib B'Sichloid. That's a long expression. That the Ika Indian here is that the mensch forms this unbelievable union with the Indian in Torah, that as it were he envelops it and surrounds it and completely contains it within his seichel. And we're going to now develop more as we go along now on that particular aspect. The other aspect, and we have to suggest that the usage of the language of the Alter Rebbe at this particular point tends to indicate that maybe we could, and we already suggested this earlier in the period, that the makif on the part of the concept enveloping his mind, due to the greatness of the Elikus that's in that seichel, but we can say that that's more at the beginning. That's more like when he's working at it, or during the time that he's making his effort to grasp. But once he's grasped it, then the Ika union is what it's going into his seichel. And that which we could say is the unbelievable greatness here as a further vista or further dimension, is that something which is essentially divine becomes part of him. It becomes like inside his seichel, and he forms an incomparable grasp and envelopment on something which is absolutely almost contrary to his very being or existence.
Is that due to the seichel nefesh elochis?
Is that called nefesh elochis?
Is that due to the seichel nefesh elochis?
Yeah, yeah.
You have godly with godly meaning.
Yeah, yeah. Is it due to the fact that we're working with the nefesh elochis? So to a certain extent, you're right. It is due to the nefesh elochis, but we're talking here on the level where you're making an effort to understand Torah. So maybe the Ikar learning here and the Ikar Chiddush is that this is even taking place with the Nefesh HaSikli, not with the Nefesh HaSikli. The Nefesh not necessarily the Nefesh HaBami. So I agree with you that ultimately the Nefesh HaBami is also drawn into this Yichud. Ultimately. But the actual formation of the Yichud, we suggest, is the Nefesh HaSikli, because she is the inner of the Seichel which really understands. And the union and the power and ultimateness of the union which occurs, well, that's due to the influence and drive of the Nefesh Elokis on his Seichel. Because the Maimon from the Friedrich Rebbe, the Shiur based on a Maimon from the Friedrich Rebbe, where the Friedrich Rebbe says that the whole human race has got a Nefesh HaSichlis. Yeah, even the Nishid have a Nefesh HaSichlis. He said, what's the difference between the Nefesh HaSichlis of a Yid and the Nefesh HaSichlis of non-Yidden? So the Rebbe says over there that because you have a Nefesh Elokis, then the Nefesh Elokis causes your Nefesh HaSichlis to work in a different way. That even though you're only working with the Nefesh HaSichlis, it works in a much greater and more consummate way than what the Nefesh HaSichlis of a non-Jew does when you're studying Torah, because of its being close and under the influence, being guided by the Nefesh Elokis. So we can say that the Chiddush is in the Nefesh HaSichlis there occurs this unbelievable Yichud. You follow? And that has more significance. That's closer to the Odom. It's closer to his ordinary being as a physical being in the world. You follow? So therefore the Yichud is drawn down through the Nefesh HaSichlis into his brain and into the rest of his system. That's what he says. Ish kafi sikloi v'koyach yidiyosei v'hazagosi b'pardes. Notwithstanding that b'vadai soid and pshat, the two different ends of the word pardes, b'vadai that they're different. Of the union occurs no matter how much you may be leaving behind because you can't really grasp these matters. But what you do grasp, the union is formed, and what you are privileged and given as an understander, in that you form that union, and it's not determined not by the source of your neshama and your abilities, and it's not formed by it's not determined even by the etzem levels of the Torah itself. Ulafisha b'yidias haTorah, haTorah melubeshes b'nefesh ha'odam b'sikloi. Once again, we see here a big emphasis now and a big development on this whole idea that in the knowledge of Torah and the study of Torah, in order to know and to grasp the concept of Torah, Torah melubeshes b'nefesh ha'odam v'sikloi. Then the Torah is melubeshes, enclosed inside the nefesh of any particular, like we said, nefesh ha'odam, doesn't depend who it is, doesn't matter who it is. Yeah, v'sikloi, and in his seichel, umukefes b'toichom, and it's completely enveloped inside them. Lochei nikras b'shem lechem u'mazein hanefesh. And therefore the Torah is called the lechem and the food of our nefesh. That literally the Torah feeds and gives sustenance to your nefesh. And he said, why? Because your nefesh has completely taken that. Let's forget now the other aspect of Makif on your seichel, but your seichel is now taken inside. So he said, so great is the union, and so great is that enveloping of your seichel, of the concept in Torah that you're understanding, that it's compared to Moshe. Now, it's well known that when you eat Moshe, the Alter Rebbe says later in Perek Ches, that when you eat something and it goes into your body, it mamish becomes the same as your body. It's never... So that means that the Torah has become like you, and you have become like Torah. Now, this is there's a very famous, this is well known, certain people bring a proof of, this is a very amazing little passage in a Gemara Masechta Kedushin, what in Daf Lamed Gimel, what there the Torah, the whole Gemara is being oisik in dinim of standing up in front of a Sefer Torah, and how much you have to stand, and what conditions, and so on. And then it gets on to the koved of Talmidei Chachomim, of studies of Torah, how you have to stand up in front of them, and how many amas away you already have to stand, and which person, if he's your Rav, or he's not your Rav, he's a Talmid Chacham, but not necessarily a Rav. Also different halachas and dinim like that. So the Gemara tells a story that one of the Amoraim, he was a very leading figure, he passed two Talmidei Chachomim that were learning Torah. They were studying Torah. And nonetheless, they got up in front of him because, he was a great Talmid Chacham. So they stood up, despite the fact they were learning Torah. So he said to them, he said, Torah kama v'lifnei lomdeha. He said, the Torah itself gets in front of, has to stand up in front of somebody who learns it. And so there's a very amazing Rashi over there. Rashi says that somebody who's learning the halachas Shabbat Torah, hu atzmei nasa Torah. Rashi says he himself becomes like Torah, and somebody who's not learning Torah at that moment, but he's a studier of the Torah, he's called Loim. So he said, listen, I'm only a studier of the Torah. You guys are the Torah. He said, how come the Torah stand up in front of? How come the Torah stand up in front of me? So the halacha is not the way. That's not the way we paskin. Paskin in Shulchan Aruch, Mefurish Adin in Shulchan Aruch, it's written that you have to get up, even if you're studying Torah, you have to get up in front of you. You have to stand up in front of you. Oh, this was the opinion of this. Right, and the Gemara brings that Abaye didn't agree with it. Abaye was the great ladder, Moira, according to whom we paskin on most occasions. He didn't agree with that. He said you have to stand up, even if you're. But that's what he held. Rashi's Masbi, his shitta. Why? Rashi says very beautifully, because if you're studying Torah, Kori Bei Torah Atzma, that the Gemara calls him the Torah itself, as it were, and the person who's going by is only the studier of the Torah. That's what he brings. So for that they bring a raya that when you study Torah and you're involved in the putting of the concept of Torah inside your mind, at that actual moment you are, your mind and your whole being is taking the Torah inside, and it's like as you be nefach through this great union, you yourself are a piece of Torah. I say, Frank Rashi, and that's the shit of this particular Gemara over there. It's very, very interesting Gemara. It's a Gemara in Daf Lamed Gimel on base right down near the bottom in Masechta Kedushin. From that we see that so great is this union that Rashi says Kori Bei, this particular Gemara, he said that's the Torah itself. So therefore, the Alter Rebbe compares it to lechem and mazen. We know that the union between lechem and mazen is and the guf which eats these lechem and mazen is a tremendous union. Says the Alter Rebbe. That's why it is that Torah is called lechem and mazen. As we know that there are many pesukim which tell us that Torah is called lechem and mayim. Compared to bread and to drink. Basically, Makev v'toichev lochem nikras b'shem lechem u'mazen hanefesh ki k'moi she'alechem hagashmi zon es haguf. He said, just like the lechem hagashmi, the material bread gives sustenance to the body. How do you call it? It feeds the body and strengthens it. Yeah, k'shemachnise b'toichoi v'kir boy mamish. He said, Davki when he puts it inside himself. Davki when you eat the bread. In other words, you put the bread inside yourself, b'toichoi, u'b'kir boy, and into your inner organs. Yeah, mamish. V'ne'afach sham, and it becomes reversed or becomes reversed over there. V'ne'afach sham becomes reversed over there. Liyois damu basa kibsorei. And that lechem becomes, he's going to repeat that later in Periches, the Alter Rebbe, that food becomes dam ubasa kibsorei. It becomes blood and flesh, just like your body was before. Now, and as it were, the actual food itself becomes nefach to your body, and becomes yisacheh that way. Va'azai yichya v'yiskayim, and then he's able to live and to continue living. Yichya, and to continue living. Davka when he takes in the food, and the food becomes one with him and unites with him, well, that's when he's able to continue living. Kach b'yadiyas ha'toira v'asagoso b'nefesh ha'odam shalom da'heita b'iyun siklei. Ad shenitfeses b'siklei, till it's grasped in his mind, u'misachedes imoi, and it becomes united entirely with him, v'hoyu le'achodim, and they become like one entity together. Yeah, the Torah and the mind of the person, yeah, unite, and they become like one in it. Notice here the Alter Rebbe says double. He says that the concept in Torah is misachedes imoya, becomes united with him. V'hoyu le'achodim. What's that? No, he's stressing even more. Not just does it become united with you, but it becomes mamish one thing. You and it become one entity together. And then na'aseh mozin lanefesh v'chayim b'kirbo. Then it becomes like a food to the soul, and it becomes chayim b'kirbo. It becomes like life inside the nefesh. So there's a lot more to be said about that. We haven't quite, but I just want to make a pause here for a moment in order to sum it up. That we've developed here in detail. The Alter Rebbe spends quite a bit of time in describing the moshel and the nimshal, which not only stresses the reality of the moshel lekabi the nimshal, but it's a sign that the details of the moshel are important. And he compares it to the taking into yourself of lechem, bread, and other forms of food. How do they cause you to live, and how do they cause you to continue to live? Yeah, because we see that man, the way he is, and the way he was made in the world, he needs something which will continually renew his living state. Otherwise, he's not going to be, miskayim. He might manage to live, but he's not going to be living in a way that he's also continuing to live. In other words, two different things. We can imagine that a person can just hold out. He can manage to hold out for a certain number of hours. We can imagine that he's living in a way that's producing more life, and from that he's continuing to live further in the best possible way. So that comes about through the union of the Mosin with his whole being. That the Mosin that he takes in unites with him, and then it causes him also further life. And they develop into an inseparable unity, which becomes like an addition to his whole state, and that, as it were, promises and assures the continuation of his life in the best possible and fullest possible concept of that idea. Yichya v'yis kaim. How is that? Through this complete union between the Mosin Gashmi and the inner organs, or the inner state of the body of the mensch, and then he takes it into Ruchnias, and he says how that's all to be taken in the form of the study of Torah in a person, and he develops on that again with quite a series of lashonim. which God willing in a further she will go into in more detail. But what I want to point out here is a couple of very important inyan. That first of all, we see here that you have to learn Torah like you eat. You got to learn Torah like you eat. Now what do I mean with that? That when you eat, you have to make sure that food is in some way rightly treated before it's able to form this unbelievable union and to reassure your continuation of life, not just to cause you to gasp and hold out who knows how long, but to reassure life and to add your system and increase your system in a way that it will continue living. You have to have in such a way that will be able to occur, that it should go into your into your body and unite with your whole system, and then become a union of life inside you. So we notice that if we talk about bread, then what do? You take if you just take the grains of the bread the way they are, for example, if you take the grains of the wheat the way it is, and just try and make bread from them, would you be successful? First we got to crush them, and you got to break them, and you got to wind them around, and who knows, all sorts of inyan. And then is that enough? Also not. Then you got to mix it with water, and you got to make it in the best possible union of the water and the flour. Is that enough? Then you got to put it in an oven. You got to bake it, but you got to bake it the right way. If you underbake it, no way will it ever unite with you. On the contrary, it will cause you trouble. In order to make it unite with your tummy and with all your system and cause you this yichya v'yiskayim, then you got to bake it properly, and it's got to be baked, but not overbaked, but it's got to be baked properly. So the Alter Rebbe in Likutei Torah and Pasha Bahar, a very famous section. The Alter Rebbe discusses all these matters in detail, and the Alter Rebbe points out over there that it's not enough just to approach Torah and say, oh, now I've got Torah, I've got all these unions, and I've formed this wondrous union of Makif and Mukaf and the whole thing. The Alter Rebbe says you got to first of all make sure that you're relating in the right way to Torah, so that the Torah will be like real lechem for you. So he said, what are you got to do? You've got to literally break it up into small particles. You've got to make it first of all into flour. So he said, that means you've got to take yourself, as it were. We're not talking someone's breaking up the Torah, but you've got to break up the Torah through yourself, or with yourself, or you should have to use the Torah first of all to break yourself. But you've got to realize that the Torah is the Torah of the Eibishter. You've got to prepare yourself for the Torah. First and foremost, you've got to break yourself into small particles. In other words, how do you got to work at yourself and break yourself down and realize that gaiva and all these things, and self-aim and running after COVID and all that, forget all about it. Then you got to mix it with water, and with water says the Alter Rebbe, is the moisture of Ava. We find that Avas Hashem is connected to water. Zocher Av Nimshach Achrecha Kamoyim and other psukim which refer to Avram Avinu's love, which was compared to mine. So he said you got to have Avas Hashem. You got to, and this is the famous Torah of the Baal Shem Tov. You got to mix your Torah together with emotion and with feeling and with arousal of the midas to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you mix the flour, which is the Torah, into the water, and it's full. And he said, then you got to take it and bake it. And he said, bake it is the chayas and the rishpei eish, the embers of fire, of the enthusiasm of the chayas and the bren. And it has to be with the bren of Avos Hashem. But he said the ultimate Ava, which makes it final lechem to be absorbed in the system, is Ava of fire. And he said, Davka, all that, then the Torah is able to enter your system and become. But he said, if not cholila, then what happens is that it forms indigestion. If you ever eat, teig as they call it, What do you call
Dough.
bread prepared before it's baked? What's it called?
Dough.
Huh?
Dough.
Huh?
Dough.
Go, yeah. If you ever eat that, then that's not good. And on the contrary, just like you are separate from the real understanding of what Torah is all about, it will stay separate in your system. So we see from that you've got to have a whole self-preparation, and you've got to be prepared to give yourself away. And then the Torah comes in, even that's able to unite and be digested within your system. And then, says the Alter Rebbe, he completes it all the way through. He says that it becomes food for your nefesh. In other words, when you learn Torah, it's not just you gain knowledge of things that you didn't know before. Well, these things feed you, and they cause you, just like the food you take in. It turns into all sorts of things, and it forms molecules and genes, and all the other misers and all the other inyonim, which without them, these things wouldn't be that way. The same way, when you learn Torah, and you've got a new inyan, a new concept, and a new understanding in Torah, it's not just that you've got a new understanding, and something is being added, as it were, to your repertoire, but you've got a whole new guiding and a whole new vista in life as a result of that particular matter. And that's the food of your nefesh. Your nefesh doesn't need physical food. The body needs the physical food. And in order to be a good kli for the nefesh, so she has to be a good body. But ultimately speaking, the food of your nefesh is another type of food. I remember once when, in the year Lamed Chesman, the Rebbe had the heart attack of one in his son. And I remember I was standing with Rabbi Bliskin alongside some leading Siddim. One of them was saying how the Rebbe's they're giving the Rebbe a whole new pill or something, a whole new thing. It's very up to date, it's very special, and it's going to help a lot. So I remember Rabbi said, he said, the Rebbe doesn't need any pills. He said, the Rebbe doesn't need pills. He said, the Rebbe needs his Siddim. He needs them to be the way they want him. He needs them. He needs the people to bring the message of the Rebbe to the world and to bring Mashiach. He said, that's what the Rebbe is. That's the Rebbe's medicine. that's the whole thing. That the food of your nefesh is another type of food. It can't function unless you have the first type. But then you have the other type. And that's what the Rebbe says, Mozin lenefesh. The Torah feeds your nefesh. And so your nefesh grows in a knowledge of not just that it's got that knowledge, but it knows how to build the Shem, to build the world another inch or centimeter closer to Moshiach, to Gilei Lakus, to Midas Tevis, to all into human relationships, all of those inyonim, all of them come from learning Torah. Okay, guys, have a good day.